Hey, I'm Kelly Hogan. Welcome back to my Zero Carb Life. Okay, a few weeks ago, I came down here and just had a list of, a dozen things that I just hadn't shared here before. And they were random and it was a casual chat. And honestly, I kind of enjoyed it. And y'all were much more chatty with me in the comments. It was good. I learned that many of you have had costochondritis before, and you also agreed that it's the worst thing ever and you felt like you were going to die. So if you missed that last video, I gave a little intro. I told my story about how Carnivore completely changed my life over 15 years ago. If you missed that one, I will link to it below. So I'm back. I have another list. I'll spare you the intro. Just the short version is Carnivore is awesome. There. Okay, one of the things I told y'all about last week was my patulous eustachian tube, which not a ton of people commented, but I don't know, a dozen or so on the last video commented to say, oh my word, I also have lost a lot of weight, and now I have a crazy sound in one of my ears. It could be a patulous eustachian tube. But heavens, I hope not, because it's a doozy to fix. There really is no cure. But I shared that I cut out all caffeine and started drinking water like it's my full-time job. And yeah, I have not been struggling with my ear issues anymore. So some of you had said that you were going to try it. If you tried cutting out caffeine and drinking more water, I would love to hear how that's going. It is still going great for me, and it's been a couple of months now. So yay, so happy. I also shared that I had been putting apple cider vinegar in my water and that I just love the way it tastes. And I've heard that it's good for general health, digestion, but also I just really love how it tastes. And I think that was the most common thing that you all wrote about in the comment section, is that you love it too. I don't know if you just tried it because of that video or if some of you have been doing it for years, but hey, cheers. Yes. So I'm still loving that also. I'm also still having the super high fat breakfast of this Carnivore ice cream. It's literally, I take 9 ounces of heavy cream. I put 1 or 2 egg yolks in it. If I want to get fancy, and I sometimes do, I put a little vanilla extract, some cinnamon, a pinch of salt. I whisk it up. It's not going to get really whipped with the egg yolk in it. The egg yolk keeps it from whipping too much, but I mix it up real well. Stick it in the freezer overnight. The next morning, it's going to be hard as a rock. Trust me on this. But I let it defrost, or I even put it in the microwave on the defrost setting for 30 seconds. And then, So anyway, that's how I've been kicking off my morning. A big bowl of Carnivore ice cream. And then for lunch, I'll typically have steak, 5 eggs, sometimes 6 eggs. Oh, I've been eating 6 duck eggs pretty often. That's a pretty big lunch, and it is so good. I have no real reason to switch to duck eggs, except they're very tasty. They are pricier. They're bigger. But anyway, if you have access to duck eggs, people who do react to chicken eggs, and thankfully right now I don't. I can handle chicken egg yolks and whites, the whole egg. But if you don't tolerate chicken eggs, it might be worth trying duck eggs. But if you could find a local duck owner, that would be amazing. And I don't really remember much else that I talked about in the last video, except I told you we got a new hamster. Well, now there are 2. We've been told they're both females. We will find out. But my older daughter also wanted a hamster for her birthday, so now we have 2 hamsters. We have Maggie and Celine Dion. Yes, that's what Julia named her hamster, because when we were purchasing the hamster at the cash register, a Celine Dion song was playing. So naturally. Okay, moving on to this week's thoughts. I have seen a lot of people in the mornings spending a lot of time outside getting natural sunlight into their eyes. And I think it's brilliant. There are so many reasons to do it. It helps to set our circadian clock. You might remember that Dr. Barry talked to me recently about the importance of sunlight in your eyes, how much morning sun and even sunset, getting that light into our eyes can help set our circadian clock so that we sleep so much better at night. Absolutely. But I'm going to get real with you for a minute. On a school morning, I get up at 5:50. The sun is not up. The sun is going to come up while first I get myself ready. Then I go downstairs. I'm fixing breakfast. The kids are packing lunches. By the time we go out the door to get them to school, the sun is up. I missed it. Also, I don't have 30 minutes. I understand that it could be arranged. It would be tough, right? For many of you who are trying to get to work, going outside for, some people say, even just several minutes, just go out there for several minutes. It can be hard to find several minutes as the sun is coming up. So I'm going to give you the real life mom version of what I'm doing around here. When I go out the door to take my kids to school, occasionally I have to wait on them for, a minute. So I open the garage and I stand behind my van, and the sun is starting to come over the mountain near my house. And I'll just take a couple deep breaths, let the sun come in. I'm mostly taking deep breaths because I'm trying to not yell at the kids to come on. But have a little prayer while I'm waiting to thank God for this day. And I'm excited to see all the blessings that you have in store for me today. And then I get in the car. And that's when my real circadian work comes, because here's what I do. I'm not standing outside for 30 minutes with my feet on the bare ground. Would that be great? Yes, I'm not knocking it. I'm just telling you that's not what's happening over here. Instead, on the drive to and from school, and while I'm sitting in that car drop-off line, my window is cracked. It's not always all the way rolled down, weather depending. Also, I don't really like all that wind blowing in my face, but it's cracked right at eye level. And guess what? The sun comes in to my naked eyeballs. No glasses, no sunglasses, nothing blocking it. It's just unadulterated, unfiltered light, and it happens while I am going to and from wherever I have to be. So if you're like me, you're either driving to work or school, you've got life going on, and you see all these influencers who are spending all this time outside in the morning, and you think, well, I can't do that. There you go. Crack your window. You're welcome. Okay, here's another thing I haven't talked about on here. If you're in my groups, or you follow me on Instagram for a while, or you're just a good friend of mine, you already know the story, but I haven't told it on here. So a couple of years ago, our puppy, who was about 1.5 years old at that point, Millie, she started limping. She was holding her back leg up. We didn't have a clue what was wrong with her. We had just come from picking her up after a beach trip. We picked her up from the kennel, and when we got her back home soon afterwards, she's limping. And I thought, well, maybe, she was a little off balance in the car. She wasn't wearing her seatbelt. That's true. And so we kind of let it go a little bit. And also I thought, we're going to take this dog and they're going to say she's got like a torn ACL or something, and it's going to cost $1 million. Let's just hope she sprained it and it's going to get better on its own. Please let it get better on its own. Well, it didn't. And then she stopped eating one day. She had no interest in, and I'll be honest, we were feeding her kibble, grain-free kibble, kind of expensive kibble, but kibble. Go ahead, roast me in the comments if you want, but that's what was happening. Well, I took her to the vet, and the vet felt back there, and she said, feel this, and I did, and there was a huge knot on her hip, not where she was picking up her foot, but at her back hip. She said, the same thing happened to my dog. She was limping, and it turns out it's puppy cancer. And in puppy cancer, once cancer develops at a young age, it's typically way worse than in an older dog. It's aggressive, and it usually goes straight to the lungs. And by the time they're limping and not eating, it's too late. She said, I am so sorry, but really, you would be doing the right thing, the merciful thing, to put her down. So, well, I cannot put the dog down. The kids think I was bringing you here for a sprained paw. I have to take the dog back home. She said, I understand, but if she's not eating, just know this is it. It's not pretty, and you should probably just, not let her suffer. She said, I'll send you home with a few days of pain pills and just make her comfortable. But when you are ready, bring her back. Oh my gosh. Well, that was a tough day at the Hogan household. We loved our puppy. Look at this face. Okay. So that evening, we told the kids there were many tears, and I said, let's see if we can get her to eat something. So I pulled out a steak, not a big one because I really didn't think she was going to eat, but I cut off some steak and put it on a plate down on the floor. I chopped it up some, right? We're not savages. And she started eating it. And we were all like, oh, she should get to eat steak as much as she wants for the next few days, right? Tears. But she ate the steak, and we were excited. The next morning, I gave her probably the rest of that steak. Some more steak. Chopped it up. Here's some more steak. She scarfs it down. Now, granted, she's still carrying around that back paw, and I can feel there's something back there. It's not good, right? But she's eating the steak. Well, we keep this up for a few days. And eventually, she's eating every meal. She's getting her energy back. She couldn't hardly get up off the floor the morning I took her to the vet. And now she's getting up and down. It's a little bit of a struggle, but she just seems better and better every day. Okay. A couple weeks go by. Now, I'll be honest, we switched her to ground beef after 3 days or so because, steak prices, am I right? We switched her over to ground beef. She seemed just as happy with that. And at that point, we started feeding our other dog, Otis, ground beef because I was done with kibble. In fact, I read online that the grain-free kibble actually has some pretty bad associations with puppy cancer. I had no idea. I really didn't know I was doing such a bad thing. But I started doing a good thing. And both of my dogs became total carnivores immediately. And they were both loving their food. Several months went by. And then I called the vet back. I said, the dog is still not dead. She said, bring her back in. Is it okay if we run some lab work? Absolutely. So she can feel that there is still this growth back there, but it didn't seem to be any bigger. The dog is eating. She's not in pain, but she can't put any weight on it at all. They ran blood work. No sign of cancer in the blood work. Everything looks normal. She said, well, this is a new one. And I told her what I was doing food-wise, but get this. She asks me, what am I exactly feeding her? Nothing but raw ground beef. She's like, they have to have some vegetables. Did she just say vegetables? Can you imagine dogs a long time ago? Were they out tilling little gardens, hoeing their little row of carrots? No. Dogs would just be killing and eating prey, squirrels, right? Vegetables. I said, when we've dropped vegetables at the house before, they don't seem to want the vegetables. She's like, well, you should start giving them at least some sweet potato. I did not do this. You know I didn't do this. I kind of smile and nod, take the dog back home, kept doing exactly what I was doing. Well, at some point along the way, the doctor did say if she can't put any weight on the leg, it's probably slowing her down more than just having 3 legs. So the leg was amputated. I have a 3-legged doodle who now for the last couple of years, I think 2.5 years now, 2.5 years now, has been a total carnivore. She runs like the wind. She is happy every single day when we pull the food out. There is a company called Raw Fed Canine. I sometimes purchase their meat. They have these doggy patties that it's ground beef. You can get any critter you want, but they also include some ground up bones and organ meats. It is way more expensive than just buying ground beef at the store. But I am not an expert on carnivore dog stuff. If you ask me a bunch of questions, I'm going to send you to rawfedcanine.com because they have a ton of information there, even if you don't buy their food, which it's a great product. It's just real pricey. But they have a doggy TDEE on there. So you just tell it what size your dog is, how active the dog is, and just like a normal total daily energy expenditure, it will tell you how many of these patties your dog should have per day. So I will link to that below. I do know that plenty of people will say if you're going to feed your dog a raw carnivore diet, that you also need to make sure they get some form of bone. So you can give them turkey necks or chicken paws, like little chicken feet. And I have tried doing that. Millie just doesn't really like it. She just wants beef. She's so my child. We're very excited that she is still with us. How cool is that? I have no idea how long this dog will live, but by George, she's gotten an extra 2.5 years more than we had ever expected back then. I just know she's eating meat and she's happy. That's it. And I know that I'm very grateful for sure. Okay, I'm looking at my list and I jotted down talk about Dr. Bill Campbell. All right, Dr. Bill Campbell is not a carnivore, but he is a physique expert. He has his PhD in physique management. He gets people ready for the stage. He also runs a research lab on weight loss, fat loss. And I heard him say something the other day that I thought might be encouraging. He said that when they run a long-term diet, so first let's explain, a diet should be that you were maintaining your weight at your maintenance calories according to your age, size, gender, and activity level. So for somebody that's active like I am, not trying to lose weight, my maintenance TDEE is about 2,100 calories, 2,200. So if somebody goes on a diet, they're doing a calorie cut off of their maintenance calories. So if I were to have, say, a maintenance TDEE of 2,000, and I decide I'm going to go on a diet for the next 10 weeks, then you might cut to 1,800, then 1,700, 16. But in Dr. Bill Campbell's lab, they did a 20-week calorie cut where they cut calories once and had them stay there for 20 weeks. Now, we don't like to see a severe calorie deficit, but he does a lot of these studies on groups of people, right? Does sleep impact it? Spoiler, yes. People can be in the exact same deficit, but if they get, in the study he did, he looked at 5.5 hours of sleep versus 7.5 hours of sleep. Huge difference. Exact same calorie deficit. The sleep-deprived people lost muscle, gained body fat. The people in a deficit who were getting 7.5 minimum hours of sleep gained muscle, lost body fat. So get your sleep, people. Anyway, that wasn't even the point of this. That was for free. He said that in a 20-week calorie cut, sometimes people start losing immediately. They go on a diet and the scale starts to drop. Body fat is down. Woo! And he said that there are other people where the first 10 weeks, they lose almost nothing. Not 10 days, not 10 minutes, 10 weeks. They lose almost nothing. And then if they stick with it, and it's part of a research study, so, they probably do. He said there were some people that lost 3 times more body fat in the second 10 weeks than the first 10 weeks. And he asked the question, and why would that be? We don't know. And I'm here to tell you, if he doesn't know, I guarantee you I don't know. He said, mathematically, it should be linear, but weight loss is very rarely linear. But he says, stick with it. So, I don't know. There's my word of encouragement. I know that when I was losing weight for all those years, it was not linear. That there were times when I thought I'm doing the exact same thing that I did for the last 2 weeks when I was completely stalled. And now, whoosh, don't you love a whoosh? Now I'm just dropping weight like crazy. What changed? What am I doing now? And I would sit around and think, what am I doing differently? Is it the time of day I ate yesterday was an hour earlier? Haven't any of you ever struggled to make a connection between what did I change? Why is this working now? Or why is this not working now? And you can't really come up with anything? Well, here's what's different now. You've had more time of just being consistent. More time. More time. Try longer. It's not always try harder. Try for longer. Okay, and that made me think of another thought I had recently. So during my years of losing weight, there were many times when I was like micro managing / freaking out about the scale. Why won't it drop? So I'd step on every morning thinking I did such a good job yesterday. Nothing. Sometimes it would even go up. Why did I even try so hard if it was just going to go up? All right. And it was maddening. Some of you maybe have even self-sabotaged because you're like, well, if the scale's going to just go up, I might as well be eating something stupid, right? I might as well be enjoying this. If I know how to make the scale go up, sometimes I would have a tendency to want to self-sabotage just so I knew why the scale went up. Okay. It's sort of like when you'd cry as a kid or whine about something, your parents will say, I'll give you something to whine about. Okay, scale, I'll give you something to go up about, baby. Watch this. Never productive. I was never glad for that choice. Any of you know what I mean? Okay. But for the most part, all of the freaking out about the scale was just in my head. It gave me doubts. It made me question everything. It drove me up a wall. And yet, for all of that time losing weight, I did not go back and binge on sugar. I thought about it a lot, but I didn't. I did stay quite consistent on this. Eat lots of meat and don't eat the carbs. And the thought that I had was, if I had simply kept doing the things, eating the meat, avoiding the carbs, moving my body, which was most of the years I've been doing this, just walks, getting sleep, dealing with stress. I really didn't focus on those two things because I didn't know that it was even really impactful on weight loss. But let's assume that all of the things I did, every single walk was the same for that period of weight loss. Every bite that I took was the same for that period of weight loss. Every hour of sleep, same in this alternate universe in which I didn't even own a scale. So me doing all of the work, but freaking out every morning and micromanaging the data versus me doing the exact same things, but did not check in on a scale at all. Which one of these two people would have lost the most weight? Come on, you've got this, y'all. Exact same. If the input, the work, the effort, the things inside of the circle, right? So inside the circle, every bite I take, every walk I make, my bedtime routines, my attitude, my hydration, all of it. My circadian work, if all of this had been the same in both versions of me, and the only difference was that I just focused on, how do I feel? How are things going? My consistency, my only focus was what I can control and maybe taking note of how I'm feeling versus this version where, I'm nearly derailed every day by not getting the results that I wanted. The end effect would have been identical. The scale does not make anything outside of this circle any better. The scale was not why I dropped body fat or gained muscle mass. The scale didn't impact my loose skin or any of that. None of it. So this does not mean that I think everybody should just throw their scales away, but I am saying that maybe some of you should. So if that data is motivating to you, as in, but it helps me stay consistent because I know that if I really go out and blow it, I'll see it on the scale the next day. Fair enough. I think that's probably the case for me too. Even when the scale wasn't cooperating, just knowing that I was going to have to step on it kind of kept me on the straight and narrow, right? Whereas if I was never going to check in, I don't know that I would have had the same level of consistency inside that circle of control. So if it's inspiring you to stay consistent, great. It's the consistency, though, that matters and not the stepping on the scale. I don't know if that feels helpful at all, but it's a free video and you get what you pay for. All right, another thing I've just thought of recently, it was brought to my attention by one of my group members who said that she had read a Mel Robbins book years ago, and she recently had applied her 5-4-3-2-1 method to decision making. So Mel Robbins talks about how we know what we need to do. She says there are very few instances, it is possible that you go, gosh, I'm really not sure. For example, if I should go higher fat carnivore for right now or higher protein carnivore. I truly don't know. Fair enough. There have certainly been some times where I didn't really know. Like maybe I had a little gut instinct, or maybe I heard something that was sort of compelling on the subject, but I didn't really know for myself until I tried it out. Okay. But she is saying that most of the time when we're fighting with a decision, we actually already know. One of the examples she gives is, would it be better if I take a walk today or if I do not take a walk today? And we can wrestle in our mind with, I should go take a walk. I know, but I don't really want to. Like we toy around with the idea of maybe I won't do it today. But if you were to ask, do you think it would be better if you did or if you do not? Well, obviously, I should take the walk. If you're at a gathering and there's a whole bunch of junk food there and maybe a charcuterie plate, maybe some deviled eggs, right? Like maybe there's something that would be good, a good choice for yourself, but you're standing at the table actually contemplating, toying around with the idea of putting other things on your plate that would not go over well for your body. In that moment, if somebody were to ask, do you think you probably should or should not eat that pie? Clearly, we know. So while we're in this, let me weigh my options, and we're actually making it seem like this is a debate. Oh, should I not? Mel Robbins says that you can practice mentally going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, walk away. She says that there's power in counting down. You don't have to do it out loud, but you have my permission if you don't mind some weird looks. Of doing the countdown, and you already know what needs to be done. And it gives your brain like this extra boost of do it. Okay. I'm going to take the walk. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stand up, go take the walk. And the more you practice this little mental countdown, the more you realize I already know what needs to be done, and it helps get your action. Sometimes I will stand in front of the bleachers at school because I like box jumping. I don't know if I've talked about this on here, maybe just Instagram. Okay, no, I hate box jumping. Let me be real honest here. It scares me. I get paralysis where I will stand in front of something that I know I can jump on top of. Box jumping is not where you go step. It's where both feet have to come up and land on something. You can start with something really small, and I did, and I've worked up, and I can now jump something pretty high. But fear sets in sometimes, and then I can't even jump something small. I'm just paralyzed. I know I can do it. If you were to say, Kelly, do you think you can make this jump? Oh, absolutely. So I'll stand in front of it, and I'll say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And it will sometimes unblock the paralysis. This little tip is probably more applicable to other things than box jumping bleachers. I'm not suggesting that you all need to go do it. It's probably not the safest thing. If I ever do bust my tail on camera while I'm box jumping, I will probably post it on Instagram. If for no other reason, but for this little kid that I met one time at a meetup, and his mother said that he watches me box jump every day just out of curiosity to see if I would ever fall. So I would post it for him. All right, let's keep rolling here. Hey, there's an app called the Sober app, and you can put in your start date for when you became sober, either from alcohol or from pie, right? You can just post your carnivore start date. It's called I Am Sober, and I'll link to it below. I have had it on my phone for a long time, not from the very first day of total carnivore, but I installed it afterwards, and I put in the start date of when I became total carnivore, and it turns out it was 5,669 days ago. So that's kind of fun. If you are maybe struggling to give something up, whether it was caffeine, sugar, cheese, whatever, you could post how many days sober. And then in the mornings, it'll sometimes give you some little tips about, hey, it's a new day, focus on what we can control, just little things that can pop up. It's a free app, so I'll link to it below. You can also post your why. So I wrote on mine, I was a sugar and carb addict, and now I have freedom. I'm no longer obese and inflamed. I feel healthy and no longer struggle with addiction. And you could set it to remind you of your why as often as you want it to. You can also set up to tell it to track your savings. So let's say that every day you had been spending $3.50 at Starbucks on a sugary drink, but then you became carb sober. You can have it track for however many days you have been off of the thing. It'll keep track of how much you've saved. Kind of fun. All right. One last thing before I wrap it up. I am lifting my weights 2 times per week. When I do that, I just try to do each set until I either can barely do the last one or maybe I would have one more in me, right? So almost to failure. Twice per week, and I'm doing whole body both times that I go. I try to space them out so I have some recovery time in between. I'm not saying it's the world's most effective or best way, but it works for my life. And by George, I'm willing to do it, so it's a win for me right now. But I'm also going to my stretching class 2 days per week. And one thing that we sometimes do at the end of class is we scoot our mats up against the wall and we slide our hip up against the wall. So if the wall is here, my hip / right butt cheek is touching the wall, and then we slide our legs up, straight up and down, up against this wall. And at first I'm thinking, what is this supposed to do? But I started to kind of crave it. I like it. I love how I feel afterwards. And they kept referring to it as an inversion. It's an inversion. Would anybody like to do put your legs against the wall for your inversion today? I was like, I guess. So I came home and I just looked up posts. Putting your legs against the wall can make you feel more relaxed. Yep. Help balance your blood pressure. Improve sleep patterns. Helps manage varicose veins. By the way, I used to have some varicose veins in my 20s and now I do not. None. Even the couple, and these were not big, chunky varicose veins. These were like blue veins, not raised up, but they are gone and have never come back. Put it on the list of things that are awesome about carnivore. Okay, focus. It can help relieve headache pain, help alleviate low back pain, can help with leg cramps, and improve circulation. Well, I can't for sure testify to any of that, except I always feel amazing afterwards. And I've heard some people say that if they put their legs up against the wall, especially if they have a lot of edema and swelling, that it really helps the swelling to go down. I don't struggle with any of these things. I just know it feels so good and that I feel so relaxed afterwards. We do it in class for just several minutes. So at the end of class, some stretching classes end with you laying in what they call like a corpse pose. But we oftentimes will end with our legs up against the wall. And I prefer it. I really like it. It's a really good like hip opener. You can even bring your feet down so your knees stick out to the side like this. And that really opens my hips up. I like it. So I thought I'd throw this out there. If you are having any of the issues I just mentioned, it might be worth trying. I would start not with several minutes, maybe 30 seconds. If it feels good, stay a little longer. Make sure you can get up and down from there, no problem. If you have eye issues like glaucoma, I have read that the pressure, if you aren't used to doing it and you suddenly lay down and put your legs up, that it can cause an issue. Just if you have any concerns, you can consult with a doctor or do some research. But I thought I'd pass it along. I talked recently about the lymphatic system. We need it to drain. So a lot of our cellular waste, about 75% of our cellular waste goes into the lymphatic vessels. And if we have a lot of stagnant toxins that are not getting flushed out through our lymphatic system, it can make us feel really sore and achy. It can lead to a lot of swelling, edema, headaches. So I did a video about lymphatic massage. I'll link to that as well. But a really great way to get the lymphatic system moving is either rebounding. I'm on my mini trampoline a lot these days. A vibration plate, dry brushing, movement in general, just bouncing and taking walks. Some of you do sprints, short sprints. Fantastic. Just movement. But another thing you can do is put your legs up against the wall, and that change of pressure when they're up and then come down creates like a hydraulic system. It gets it moving. So there you go. I know this was random. I told you from the get-go. You knew what was coming. But I've just been keeping a little list of things I want to tell YouTube. And I don't know. If you're okay with these casual chats, I think I'll throw them out there every once in a while as I have things that pile up and I think, oh yeah, I think I'm going to tell them that. None of it is life-changing except what I started with, which is change your diet and you'll probably change your life. Many of you here already have, and I love hearing your success stories when we cut out starches and sugars and processed foods and focus the majority, if not all of our diet on animal products, meats, fatty meats, tasty meats, eggs, some dairy if you tolerate it. That is what changed my life. Walking helped, yes. Sure, rolling down my window, good for sleep. These are all like little tiny nice additions, little garnishes to the main dish of a big ribeye. Okay, thanks for showing up here today. I enjoy spending my Saturday mornings with you. See you soon. Bye.